So we are here in the middle of the rice fields in Sibang Kaja near Bamboo U, and we built this beautiful project for the community, for the farmers here in the rice fields. And I'm here with Garvin and Kristof, that they are the masterminds to design all of this. So let's walk through this project while you tell us a little bit of how crazy was this project to build it with no drawings at all.
So we came here with a group of 25 students from the University of Hong Kong as part of a summer course. And the course is all about exploring and experimenting with how technology integration into local craftsmanship for sustainable materials can allow for a different type of architectural design solution space. And so what we experimented with here was a computational design workflow where real-time physics simulation engines, which are like computational design tools that allow you to predict the behavior of bamboo to a certain degree, how we could design with those to arrive at a hyper lightweight structure that hasn't really been ever seen before or built before. Yeah. Definitely not at this speed. So a computational design workflow was at the basis of the geometric design of what we see behind us.
Yeah, and what we also did is we incorporated augmented reality drawings. So you have to imagine that we're wearing these headsets, which are called the HoloLens. We're also using our mobile devices, and through these devices you can actually see in front of you a digital simulation of what we want to build. So it's like basically like a three-dimensional puzzle, a hologram exactly, and that you have to match. So you see a digital representation, a hologram of what needs to be done, and then you pick up the physical material and you're trying to align the geometry that you see digitally in front of you with the physical material. So this is really streamlining and making the construction much more accessible for people who potentially cannot read drawings, and it makes also geometries like this one much more easy to build.
Yeah, and also it was very interesting just to share what we're going to build with the carpenters, with the craftsmanship, so they can see the 3D model, they can see the scale model, and also being able to understand perfectly, even having a language barrier, like just having the HoloLenses, they wearing them, looking at the bones and how we're going to build that. So they had like the full idea of what we're going to build, and it's not like us pointing it out like in the air, but they are actually looking at that. So that was super fun.
So in terms of the design, maybe we can move closer a little bit. So what we have is basically a roof surface which is made from quad shape, so four-edged polygons basically all the way down. And then from that, a grid peels down. And what you will see if you look around is that we have these diamond shapes or quad shapes everywhere, but per column, there's 4 pentagons. There's one there, there's one there, one there. And just like when you have a football, if you look at a football, you have these hexagonal patterns and a few pentagons in there. And because of that, they can make a sphere. Here we have quad shapes and again, a few pentagons. And because of that, that allows you to basically peel off that top surface into a tubular structure that comes down to the foundation. And so we have these 2 legs that are, as I mentioned, hyper lightweight, but they get their stiffness because they kind of make this reinforced diaphragm tube that then blends open to catch the roof that's lying on top of it. And that roof, and that's really exciting, is actually a tension roof because it doesn't touch the structure in the middle. It's only attached around the perimeter, and it's basically suspended in between the edge of that bottom grid that comes down onto the columns. And so later this week, the craftsmen are going to put alang-alang grass on it. So it's going to become this thatched roof, and it's going to be spectacular. You're going to see this grassy disc hovering just above the substructure underneath here. It's going to be spectacular to see.
Airy, and all the border will look very good. And then if the wind blows like now, it will look very nice.
It will gently even dance a little bit. Like these are all springs basically, right? It's multiple splits pinned together, so they're stiff, but it's still bamboo. So there's a little bit of flex possible in it. So this whole pavilion is just going to gently dance a little bit, but that's what bamboo does, right? It bends, it doesn't break. So it's going to be able to absorb all these forces in a very elegant way.
Maybe also to add to the design. So we got inspired by the Bale typology, which is actually like this 2-legged traditional hut which you can find on the farm where farmers gather and exchange ideas. So we took this idea, scaling up this idea. So the 2 benches that you can see here are actually for sitting, for potentially farmers enjoying a lunch break as well, where they have some shade, where they can potentially be protected from rain as well.
It's a temporary shelter. Well, it's a permanent shelter where they can temporarily go to discuss and meet. So it becomes this informal community space, which will be situated here in the middle of all of these beautiful rice fields, flower fields, in the middle of agricultural part next to the hood.
Yeah, it's going to be super cool. And in terms of construction, you want to see like a little bit closer how we build these bundles that are made out of bamboo splits. These splits are 3 centimeters, 3.5 centimeters by 1 centimeter thick. Then we bundle together 4 pieces, pin them and screw them, but having them in the ground and with augmented reality, like just following the pattern and following the shape of each bundle.
So all the complex curves that you see here that are kind of snaking through the geometry, we digitally ahead of time flattened them onto the ground and projected them down while keeping the lengths so that their complexity could basically be baked into the geometry and then placed, and then just relying a little bit on the natural flexibility of bamboo to go from this 2-dimensional curve to the 3-dimensional shapes that we have here.
Yes, so we labeled all of this with augmented reality. So what you can't see anymore, which we already cleaned up, is the flat grid on the ground that has a lot of these QR codes that you can actually see here on the ground. So what these QR codes that you can see here actually do is they reference the digital model on top of the real world environment. So we had a lot of those on the ground, and with these we could pre-curve these split bundles. We could label these split bundles with the intersection points, which then gave us a very good workflow between mixing the digital holographic overlays together with the physical markings, so we could actually double check the precision with this.
And so each of these split bundles, as Louise was saying, they're made from bamboo columns that are basically chopped into 6 or into 8 parts, and they're very, very floppy. But then by bending them in place and pinning them, almost like you would do when you have a glue laminated beam, you're basically locking in the geometry into a certain specific shape that can then be brought up onto site. And so what we kind of see this thing here, it's a great pavilion, a great project, but ideally for us, it's still kind of a prototype of maybe like a 1:4 scale of what a proper large structure could be, maybe like an airport hangar or something, where these geometries would be replaced, would not be made from splits, but maybe from solid columns themselves, that with a rub technique, we'd be able to bend in the correct shapes anyway. And so we think this is a prototype for that type of architecture where you can really speed up and scale up the complexity of what you can do with bamboo and with sustainable materials without increasing construction cost, complexity of craftsmanship, the complexity of the whole organization, of a site management system. So augmented reality technologies, as long as they're linked to one of those parametric models and have the ability to respond quickly to the flexibility that you need to have on site, can really help in making types of architecture possible with bamboo that otherwise you wouldn't be able to produce.
Yeah.
And
So
the
now,
flexibility that it gives, like the bundles itself, you're able like to really move and to have like a not like that accurate intersections, but also like being able to bend and have that flexibility with the bundles to put them in place. So like also working with bamboo is very easy. Like you have like that tolerance to move the pieces instead of like if you're using any other kind of material.
yeah, maybe we can also mention again that this was like mostly built by students as well. We had, of course, the carpenter team that helped the students a lot with the technicalities, explaining them everything. But this structure, even though it looks very complex, right, was actually made by students who the majority never went to a construction site before. So I think it's amazing what you guys also taught the students in this short period of time in order to actually realize this in 6 days.
Yeah.